Hey, welcome to the Rehab My Soul podcast. I am Lamiski Love, your host, and today we have a guest all the way from the other side of the world. It's early morning for her right now, it's evening for me, and her name is Vanessa Jendra. And I would like to introduce her, and we're going to hang out, share, talk about crystals and alignment and when life gets boring and monotonous and all of that stuff. So, hey, Vanessa, how are you?
Hello, good morning or good afternoon for you. I am well. It's a nice sunny
Awesome.
morning here in Australia.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, it's I'm sure it's beautiful there. I just read a book actually of this lady that went on a journey to Tasmania, and um part of her journey was in the mainland of Australia as well. So it's pretty interesting. So it's so synchronistic that I get to share some time with you. So tell me about yourself and what you do and what you're here to share with us.
Well, I do a lot of things. Um, I'll tell you my backstory in a second, but at the moment, I am a spiritual healer. So I do all the things. I do crystal healing, I'm a Reiki master. Um, I do intuitive Balinese massage. I used to do sound healing. I am a women's empowerment coach. I do root cause therapy. I do a lot of things, predominantly with females. When I had my home, I did have a home business where I did service men for spiritual healing as well. But I found that the more work I did, the more in tune I got with the feminine side of things. So I've kind of directed my business to serving and empowering women as I went along. But all of the things I do tend to help women find their alignment and kind of dig deeper into their self-worth and help them heal on their journey to empower them to live this life that they know they deserve to live.
Mm, that sounds awesome. I think all of us can
Yeah,
use a little dose of that sometimes. So, how did
so
you get
true.
into this work?
My story is long. It started pretty much, I'm going to go way back. I got into a relationship when I was 14 years old back in high school. And I was with this person for 10 years. And on that journey, I kind of lost my identity, I guess you could say. I did the school and then I went to uni, but uni was something that was kind of thrust upon me. I knew deep down I didn't want to go to university, but I went because I got in. And I feel so deeply now that's kind of an area of society that isn't kind of looked upon. We're pushed through the system even though we might not want to do those things. So I quit uni. I did half a bachelor's degree because it wasn't what I wanted to do. And at that kind of moment, I guess, is when I start putting my foot down and I said, no, this isn't for me. But I stayed in that relationship, and my partner's job forced us to travel. So I kind of lost my identity by just following him around for a few years. And we were together for nearly 10 years until I got to a point where I'm just like, there's got to be something more. There's got to be. So I saved up for a year and I bought my own house, moved from pretty much the desert we were living in at the time for 3 years. And I moved to the coast and I bought a house near the beach, which was, I'm such a water baby. The beach is my soul calling. I get all of my healing from being in the salt air and like the sound of the waves. I could hear the waves from my house, which was beautiful. And then within a year of being in a new job, I was working in hospitality. I met someone, and that relationship was terrible. It turned out to be. I thought he was my dream person, but very quickly, that relationship turned sour. And for almost a year, I put up with a lot of BS. I don't know if I can swear on this show, but a lot of BS
You
that
can.
I I never thought I would find myself in. I've always been a very smart girl, a lot of street sense, common sense, um, brains, you could say, always followed the rules, respectable. No, that would never happen to me. It happened. And I just wound up being like, oh my God, how the F did I get into this position? And it was so bad that I probably shouldn't have been here right now.
Wow.
And it went on and on for nearly a year until I got to the point that, the more it happened, the more I fell out of love with this person, if you could call it love, um, until I finally created some boundaries. I didn't know what they were at the time, but I was like, no, no way, I'm not putting up with this. So I let that go. I released that lower vibration, you could say, now that I realized what it was. And it was my lesson that I learned. And I knew that I'd learned that lesson, even though I knew I never should have been there in the first place. But for some reason, I was guided on that path. And I'm so thankful now, because after that happened to me, it kind of propelled me into this spiritual journey that started everything, towards what I'm living now, I guess you could say. Within maybe 2 months, I started working with my first holistic healer teacher, where I fell in love with herbs and crystals and all things magic and the moon. And as you progress into kind of an awakening, you would know also that you kind of become a sponge for everything, and teachers fall into your space, and people you start talking to kind of leave little breadcrumbs, like I guess you could say, where you just go on this journey of learning everything at once, and everything kind of falls into your space and you just want to know more about everything. So after working with this spiritual teacher, I think it was for almost 2 years, I stayed with her doing online classes. I think it was 3 a week. So I fully got into it, even though I was working full time, taking 3 classes a week. I then moved on to study Reiki. I learned Reiki through my holistic teacher. I learned about it, and then I went and sought out a Reiki master that taught me and attuned me, and I worked my way up to master Reiki level, I think, in 2 years. I didn't kind of want to do it all at once. I wanted to integrate as I went, so I kind of spread out my attunements. And then after working with my Reiki teacher, I knew there had to be more about crystals, even though I was learning the basics. So then a crystal teacher came into my path, and I became a master crystal healer. Then a few years later, after opening my own little practice doing Reiki, I bought some sound healing bars and started learning sound healing. Then I went on a journey and discovered intuitive Balinese massage. So I became a massage teacher. All the time, I was still working full time in hospitality. So I was working in the gaming sector, and I had been working there. By the time I left, I'd done 10 years in the hospitality. So I was working with drug dealers, drug addicts, old grumpy people, alcoholics, people that like to spend their time gambling and drinking heavily. And it really just didn't vibe with who I was becoming at that moment. And I think because my energy was beginning to raise, and just the personality that I am, a lot of people would spend their time just telling me their stories. And I know it's a great thing, but when you're surrounded by this kind of low energy constantly, and you're trying yourself to live in a higher vibrational world, it can become very draining. And I'm going to say soul sucking, because at the end of the day, even though I technically hadn't been out building houses or doing a lot of physical work, I was mentally and physically so exhausted. I would come home and just crumble onto my lounge and just sit there for like 2 hours, because I literally was so drained of any kind of energy or desire to do anything more. I just had to refill my cup. And the very beginning of my business, I had created around self-love practices. So everything was centered around self-love Wednesdays, which was a thing I started way back when Facebook was, first becoming and first being born. And I look back now and laugh, but it's really strange how my business today is still centered around those self-care practices. And I kind of got to the point where I realized that everything that I was living and doing, I was neglecting my own self-care, even though that's what I was sending out and promoting into the world. I was so drained. And I realized that primarily that's what was missing from my life. And when I realized that, I had people tell me all the time, it just didn't sink in that where I was working was so, it was such a duality from my personality and what I was doing outside of work. And I was like, I would laugh it off and be like, yeah, I guess. But then it started to sink in the more I realized it. And I would turn up to work and just cry because I didn't want to be there. The machines wouldn't work for me. I spent my morning counting money. Like, it was just dirty. It was a dirty environment for me. And a lot of people thrive in that environment. They love, I'm an introvert, extroverted people love being in hospitality. But for me, it was so icky. And I would be so upset to even start my day, let alone get home at the end of the day, and just
Right.
I'd just literally die on the couch. So I got to a point where something had to change. And I was working, it was a very small town, so there was an opportunity really to go and change jobs because the job placement in that area was very hard and very low. And I was paying a mortgage. I owned my house, so something had to change. And I knew that if I wanted something else, I had to sell my house to leave my job because my job was financing my house. So, and this was COVID year, right? The time of great change in the world.
Right.
I'm an avid traveler and I would travel at least once a year overseas for a month or more. That's where I spent my money as a solo female. I saved up to travel. That's what cools my soul. That's what fills my cup. And when I got to the point where I wasn't able to do this, COVID actually happened the week I was meant to fly to Turkey. So I'd missed my holiday for that year. So it was now going on 2 years since I'd been anywhere. And of course, restrictions, even through states, even through towns here, we weren't allowed to travel more than a few kilometers at times. So I was feeling really claustrophobic and really stuck. And I just, I couldn't breathe, I guess you could say. I got to the point where I'm just like, I'm going to explode if something doesn't change. So I decided to put my house on the market. And I had previously tried to put my house on the market 2 years before this, but not for the same reasons. And my house didn't sell. And this time I listed my house, I got my first offer in 2 hours.
Wow.
So I knew this was meant to happen. And although it was scary, I kind of just went with it. And I was like, okay, this is happening. This is meant to be. And I told my boss, I said, I've put my house on the market. I've already got an offer. And he was like, oh, yeah, yeah. Didn't quite believe me. It was all going to happen because I'd done it all before, 2 years before, and it didn't happen. It happened. And within 4 weeks, I had left, a job that I'd been at for nearly 10 years. My house I'd literally sold everything in my house apart from a couple of boxes, which are behind this curtain here, and two dresses. I have two, like, what would you call them? Like Balinese type, beautifully carved. That's all that I wanted to keep out of my whole house, apart from a couple of little knickknacks that are sentimental and some kitchen stuff. Literally sold everything else that I owned.
Wow.
Didn't feel emotionally connected to anything. And I had no idea what I was going to do. Literally no idea. And my mum helped me come and clean my house because everything happened so quickly. I was still selling stuff the day I had to leave my house. Packed up, left, drove to my mum's house. Then I was like, now what? I kind of did everything on a whim and just through feeling like everything was happening the way it should, because it should. And I had no direction, someone that was very organized. And when I went on trips, I would research everything down to the minute of my days, how I wanted to spend my days traveling,
Mm-hmm.
to someone that just was now at my mum's house going, shit, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I know what I want to do, but the only money I had was from selling my house, like the difference between my mortgage and what I'd made on the offer. I had no job. I had a car, but it wasn't going to allow me to travel and experience life the way I wanted to. So I started researching like vans and caravans and that sort of thing to travel, because that's what my soul was calling for. And although I couldn't travel overseas, I haven't experienced Australia as completely as I can. This country is so huge, there's so much to see. And that's what I decided to do, was to travel. However, because of COVID, every single van, I think, in the whole country was bought up at this point. And I was like, if this is meant to be, it's going to happen. But I just got to the point where I was literally scrolling through car sales every single day, trying to find a van that suited my needs and my budget. And every time I pulled a tarot, because I love doing tarot, the cards just kept saying, wait, wait, wait. I'm like, how much more can I wait? Until one day I woke up and there was a van on the car sales website and it had been listed for 3 months. And I have no idea how I did not see it for 3 months. It just
Isn't
came
that
to me at
crazy?
divine timing.
Wow.
I went to see it, perfect. And the next morning he had someone else come in to look for it. And I went to see it on a Friday afternoon. Now I'm not going to buy anything without a mechanic to look at it, right? So I was calling around all the mechanics. One person was going to be open on Saturday morning, and he said, "Bring it in, I'll have a look." And I was like, "Yes!" And everything was right with it. It was perfect. Paid him, took it home the next day, spent about a month renovating it, and then took off on the road. And
Mm.
for the last year, I've been, because our states were still closed. I don't know if you know much about Australia's states, but I live in Queensland, which is one of the biggest, and I'm very blessed that I got to spend the last year discovering Queensland. I have traveled quite a lot in my lifetime, but never to the smaller towns. And I love nature, so I love waterfalls and beaches. And I just spent the last year exploring all the little hidden hooks and crannies of our state. And now the borders have opened. I can't wait to continue my travels. But it's weird when you step into this divine flow of what you should be doing. This alignment that I've discovered is what it is. You step into this power of what you know you should be doing. So I've shifted my business from one-on-one healing to kind of a more broader approach into stepping into each person's own journey. So I now help women discover their own alignment so they can have this empowering just energy of just being held and supported regardless of knowing, what you should, is just surrendering to this process. And it can be scary, but once you just let go of that fear and just know that what's going to happen should happen, things start shifting and it all just works differently. And there's been times where just been, I've had a lot of things happen to the van, like tire blowouts and engine problems. And, there's a moment where I step into this fear of, am I going to be able to afford it? Am I going to be stuck on the side of the road? Is there going to be someone that can fix it? And the second I let go of that fear and just go, no, it's going to be okay. I'm just going to go with the flow, and what happens is going to be okay. There was one point last year I spent nearly $6,000 fixing a plumbing problem with the water from my water tank going to my kitchen and my bathroom. And the second I drove away, they'd promised me, I'd been back 4 times. They promised me it was fixed. The second I drove away, I was about 3 hours away. The water started leaking again. And I felt shattered. And then in an instant, I turned that around and said, no, I'm going to get this fixed and it's going to happen for free. I had no idea, because every time I went back to the other mechanic, they charged me thousands. And I went into this mechanic and he fixed it for free for me. And I said, that's being
Mm.
supported by the divine. And it's just a shift in my own energy that creates these realities. And it's incredible. And I guess that's how I got to where I am today, right? Bit of a
Wow.
long, crazy story, but this is me.
I just recently came across this TikTok about being delusional, and in the most beautiful term, and I think of that when I think of your story. Not, of course, not a negative connotation of delusion, but being unrealistic is realistic for some people, and just
Yeah.
even you thinking that this is going to get fixed for free because I've already done a lot of work to get this issue solved and it has not been solved yet. That seems unreasonable, but it's reasonable, because it happened.
Yeah.
So, when you work with your clients, your women clients, what are some of the major issues that are coming up with women, that you're
I,
attracting to you?
I think primarily it's fear and the unknown. Women are scared of the unknown because primarily, right, it's the society that we grow up in. You are being told to go to school, learn the things in school that they want to teach us. I know you call it college over there. We go to university, we get married, we have a family, we buy a house, and we're told internally that should make us happy. But it's not making us happy because it's not our dream sometimes. It could be your dream. And if it's your dream, that's beautiful. But for some of us, we get to the point and It tips. This is my framework, and what I do is your happiness has to come from your foundation. It doesn't come from, buying the house. You might go through all the steps and then you live in this beautiful house surrounded by this beautiful family, and you're still not happy, and you're like, shit, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you haven't created this foundation and you're not living your own dream, right? We all have dreams, and there's nothing wrong with your dreams. They're your dreams. Everyone has different things that they want to work towards in their life, and it's a societal pressure that creates this fear, that there's something wrong with us, or what we want isn't achievable, or it's the frustration that we feel unsupported and unheard, because what we want isn't mainstream enough, even though 99% of women probably feel the same way, right? It's the whole thing of going through life and then getting to a point where you're like, shit, this wasn't for me and I've just wasted my whole life. Well, you haven't really, because you're still alive and you still have a chance to do what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just surrendering to that feeling and the process of chasing after what you want, and you're allowed to have goals and visions, and no one can tell you otherwise because it's your life, right? And that's
Right.
why I want to shake women sometimes, because they get into this point and I know deep in my soul it's judgment and it's fear of what everyone else thinks. And when you come down to it, there's no one else that matters but you. And getting that through to some people sometimes is really hard. But that's what it comes down to, is being afraid and frustrated that you're never going to get what you want, and being afraid to just speak up and just let the world know what it is that you want and to go after it. Even if you don't get there in the end, it's the process. That's stepping into your alignment, is stepping into your path and knowing what you want and just doing it anyway.
Right. Yeah. I think the fear is never going to go away. It's about moving with that fear, which is
Yep.
courage. So, building our courage to build or rebuild our identity that has gotten lost somewhere along the way when we started playing this game by somebody else's rules because we thought that that was what we were supposed to be doing at some point, you know?
Yep.
Totally understand that. So tell me about your work as a crystal healer.
hmm So, as I said, I've always been into crystals. As a little girl, my mum would take me to the crystal shop, but I never got further than how pretty they were, right?
Right.
And then as I started to learn holistic health, I started to learn about what each crystal was used for, what its metaphysical properties were. This crystal helps you sleep, this crystal helps with whatever. And I said, it's got to be more to that than the surface level. So I went into the crystal healing course, and it went into more so about the scientific side of crystal healing. And for a lot of people, but especially me, because I love learning and I love having information back up metaphysical, especially when you come across skeptical people. And I learned that there's more to crystals and our bodies than what most, stores and that put out into the world. And I discovered that, there is a reality where crystals do influence our vibrational field, and they actually do shift and heal us. I was like, wow. So I spent about a year learning, deep diving into crystals, and now I use them as a tool because that's what they are. They're a tool. You don't need crystals for healing. We heal ourselves regardless, but they're a great tool to assist us and help things move more quickly. And I use the crystals as tools now in just about any healing that I do, just because their vibrational impact is a lot quicker and helps us shift and clear energy a lot quicker. So when I use crystals, I don't necessarily do crystals on their own now, but using them with Reiki, it's very efficient, and it's just it's a more beautiful experience, I think, as well, in infusing this crystal energy into your healing practices. I know you do Reiki as well, and it's such a especially showing the clients, after the session, what crystals you used on them and that sort of thing and why. If you're just beginning with crystals, I highly recommend that you don't get caught up in the whole fantasy of what each crystal represents. There's such a strong concept into walking into a crystal store and just intuitively picking a crystal, not based on what you think you need or what the little cards say each crystal does, because you subconsciously know, what to reach for. And you'll probably find once you go home and start researching that crystal, it's exactly what you need, right? So it's I love divine intervention, and I love the synchronicity and the little messages that often come over time once you do these little things. Crystals have a Do you want me to go into a little? I'll do a little scientific here.
Sure. I love the science.
Crystal so crystals have their own vibration. We talk about vibration a lot in spiritual healing, but I don't think a lot of people understand exactly what it is. But crystals they're made of mineral makeup, right? They're actually from the ground, so they're minerals, and each crystal has its own mineral makeup. That's why you can have all quartz crystals the same, all amethyst crystals the same. So each different type of crystal is made up of a compound. So each of these compounds has its dominant oscillatory rate. So it's the vibration that that mineral compound has. And when you bring that near your body starts vibrating at that same rate. So each of our chakras have its own, oscillatory vibration, right? Each chakra has its own properties, its own reason for being in that area of the body. So when we use crystals and bring them near our body's vibration entrains with that of the crystal. So it's very quickly shifting our vibration to match that of the crystal. So that's why crystals work very quickly and efficiently. And you can do a whole crystal healing session just with crystals if all you have is one crystal for each chakra. And again, don't get mixed up in all the meanings. All you need to do is get one for each color. If you match the color, start at the bottom and place one crystal in each of your chakra and just sit there for 10 minutes. And your body will naturally entrain to the energy and the vibration of those crystals, and then remove them and go about your day. It doesn't have to be difficult. Crystals work on their own terms, and your body will start shifting and moving energy on its own. So it's really easy to work with crystals. If you can't afford crystals, get a quartz point. It's literally the only crystal that you need. Quartz enhances and amplifies energy. I recommend don't sleeping with a quartz because you're going to have some crazy dreams probably and unsettled. But you can program quartz to match any vibration of any other crystal there is. So just having a quartz is all you need to start with. But I recommend one crystal for each of the chakras, and then whenever you're feeling out of place in any of those energy centers, all you need to do is sit with that crystal and allow the energy to shift your own vibration, right? It's uplifting you, and it's entraining your body's vibration with that of the crystal. So I use them obviously on the chakras when I do crystal healing and to open the light column in the body. So I use lodestone and quartz just about with every crystal healing session or Reiki healing. I just call it energy healing now because I use all the things. But using the crystals to open your light column and to entrain each of the chakras is primarily what I use them for. If there is something going on that's a bit deeper or a bit more overwhelming, I could also use them as a body layout. So placing the same crystal around the body, which is going to amplify that one vibration and make it stronger and help shift things more deeply. But crystals, it really doesn't matter. My one kind of piece of advice is if you are using them for healing purposes, try not to overload your body. There's this thing when you start learning about crystals and awakening to all their beauty, and they are beautiful. But if you're using them for healing purposes, don't dress your whole body in crystals, having different earrings and necklaces and 10, those big bead bracelets you see a lot of people wear. They've got like 15 up their arm. That's not going to work for healing. You can only kind of work with maybe up to 3 at once, wearing them as jewelry as healing properties. If you've got more, that's fine, but it's probably going to overload. Your body's not going to entrain to that one vibration. There's too much happening in your field. But if you do want to use them for energy, I recommend just sticking to 1 to 3. Okay. If you're using them for healing purposes. Other than that, go for it. I think
Right,
they're
right.
beautiful and I wear them a lot. But if you are trying to just shift into that one kind of vibration, just limit them in your space or on your body.
For
But just
sure.
wearing one necklace or having one tumbled stone in your pocket or in your bra is going to start shifting your energy, regardless of what you're thinking or what you're doing. Just having it near your body is instantly shifting your personal vibration.
Wow.
They're magic.
I've never heard it explained that way. It's so simple yet so profound that
It
we
is.
have these tools here. One time I heard as well is that we are the first crystal. We are the crystal first, and then we also have
Yep.
access to the other crystals to assist us. That
Oh
was
yeah, we're all
awesome.
made up of atoms and moving energy. That's why we work together so well.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I know in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I did not really get into all of the tactical things. I was so busy trying to just make sure I understood the chakras and make sure I understood the feelings and the vibes and all that stuff. Because, I mean, being highly sensitive, I get a lot of information. And so the benefit of being highly sensitive and getting sometimes overwhelmed with information is when you're in the right place, you also get the right information deeply as well. So I thank you for explaining that about crystal healing.
That's
I
okay.
was aware of its use. I never I've never used crystals. Well, I do use crystals. I was thinking about in my Reiki healing. I did keep a very large. I have a very large pink Himalayan salt crystal, and I kept that under the table, the massage table where I did my healing work. Um, what are some crystals that you keep with you? I know you don't want us to get caught up on the names and stuff, but we've got to
That's okay.
identify them some type of way, right?
And salt's really great. I have a Himalayan salt lamp just out of picture. And salt is really beautiful because it amplifies the negative ions in the air, which gives the same effect of being like near lightning or waterfalls under the ocean. So when you amplify these negative ions, that's when our body relaxes and comes into its healing mode. So it's kind of perfect. You had it under the healing table. Under my healing table, I don't know if you know, sometimes there's like a little basket where you can put pillows and stuff. I have a massive selenite stick
Mm.
under my healing. It's kind of the only healing crystal I have in my healing space, apart from the other crystals that I use when I'm doing my healing. I always start with a lodestone between the feet, which is a magnetic crystal, which magnetizes the person's energy field to the earth. And then I always open it with the crystal quartz point, which is my. I always recommend people have their own master crystal, which is their crystal, and you don't let other people touch it and you use it for your own healing. I use mine also when other people do the healing, but it's quite a large quartz point. And I open people's light fields, light column with that above their head. And then when I'm doing my healing work, I always use my chakra stones. Now, this can change. I intuitively pick my crystals. As I said, I normally don't get caught up on why a crystal is called to me or the healing properties behind it. But I have my crystals sorted into chakra little sections in my great crystal box, and I intuitively pick which crystal I feel the client needs. And I don't get caught up in the why. I just trust. It's again, it's another surrendering thing to the divine. When I buy my crystals, yes, I sneakily look at what, because I have so many now, right? And you don't need 20 rose quartz. I actually have a lot of rose quartz, but I was like, I don't have that one yet. What's that good for? And then I'll buy it for the whatever reason, and I'll pop it into my box of whatever chakra it goes with. But then when I'm intuitively picking, I just let source work through me and say the client needs this one. But I always work in the correct chakra unless I'm doing like a huge opening of a closed chakra or something. Then I might work with a few stones on the one chakra. But typically it's garnet or black tourmaline for the base chakra. Generally, what I use, um, black tourmaline can get overworked, I think, in the spiritual concept of people awakening. Black tourmaline gets used a lot for all different purposes, but it is a great grounding tool. Then for the chakra, depending if you want to do like a more divine, like a feminine, you could work with the womb space and do like opal or something like that, or you can use carnelian for a more fiery, passionate kind of opening. Solar plexus is all about sunstones. So bright yellow stones you're looking for. I generally use citrine. I'm just doing a basic layout. And you don't want to get caught up. Just a little side note here for your listeners. There's a lot of dodgy crystal stores out there. I'm not saying all crystal stores are dodgy, but they do kind of get caught up in people mass producing and mass selling stones. A lot of citrine out there is heated amethyst. And it really annoys me because when I started on my crystal journey, I bought a beautiful citrine that I thought was citrine until someone told me, and it looks like amethyst. That's not citrine. Citrine is a different chemical makeup from amethyst. Amethyst. So it shouldn't look like amethyst. You know, you see them with the rocky bottom with the big white chunk and then the orange tips. That's heat treated amethyst. So you can still use it as a solar plexus stone because of the color properties. It is still going to work, but don't use it for like prosperity and that sort of thing that you would typically use citrine for. Then the heart space, you can use any type of green or sorry, I'm losing my voice, pink stones. So any kind of green stone will heal and grow. Don't use green if you have cancer. I'm just going to make that point. I don't know why I'm losing my voice. I'm talking too much. So green will help you grow and heal. But if you've got cancer, it's going to help the cancer grow. So I don't recommend using green stones for cancer. Use something like smoky quartz or something that's going to transmute the energy into something different.
For the heart chakra.
Yes, or typically if you are on a healing journey and you're just using a crystal like in your bra or something. Rose quartz is a beautiful heart stone. Pink opal, those softer, gentler kind of vibrational stones are beautiful in the heart space if you don't want to use something green. Blue stones for the throat chakra, so kyanite. You could use something like lapis, sodalite, angelite, all those types of soft throat opening chakra stones. Third eye chakra, you go into so many third eye chakra stones. You could just use quartz. You could use lapis again. When you get to the third eye, you could use stones typically for connecting to the angels and that sort of thing as well, right? Because it's the third eye to the divine. So any kind of conscious opening stones will also work regardless of their color if you're using them to connect to kind of ethereal energy. Crown chakra, you want to go for higher vibrational stones and lighter or light violet. So you could typically use amethyst on your crown as well as your third eye. Amethyst is also beautiful for sleeping. So it is the stone that you can keep in your bedroom. Quartz. Quartz definitely above the crown chakra. And that's another reason why quartz is such a great stone if you have no other stone to work with, because it is going to help you open tourmalinated quartz. Just a side note, quartz. I have one just here that I keep in my tarot box. Tourmalinated quartz is, I mean, if you can see that.
Oh wow,
Just
I've
clear
never
quartz,
seen one like that.
but it's actually got black tourmaline inside it.
Wow.
So if you have no other stone, this is a great one that you can use for something like meditation, because it's a grounding stone with the black tourmaline, but it's also opening up your light column. So it does both.
Wow.
How good is that? It grounds and opens. So it's pretty much activating your whole light column with one little tiny tumbled
Wow.
quartz.
I've never seen a quartz like that.
So a lot of quartz, like ruby and zoisite, you can get tourmaline in a lot of things because of the way crystals grow together. You can have aspects of one stone that's growing with another stone. So that's another way you can look at your crystals is, you know, what's growing with that other stone and how can you benefit from using both of those vibrations. Then you only need to get one stone. I
Wow.
wear Unakite on my ring typically. It's a green stone with pink through it, which is a beautiful love, self-love stone, which I think everyone should wear. But it's also got the green with the pink, which is a beautiful heart space color.
For
But I could
sure.
go on and on all day about all the different crystals, but I do recommend that people just pick one that they vibe with, because that's what you should be working with at that time. And once you drop it and it breaks, don't worry about gluing it back together. It literally just means that you've worked with that stone. You don't need to keep working with it anymore. You know, it served its purpose. I when they do that, after I feel heartbroken and I cry a little bit, I put the little crystal shards in my pot plants and allow their crystal energy to sit with my plants and radiate through the house, which I think is
Oh,
beautiful.
that is beautiful.
Or if they break and you've got a big chunk, you can give that chunk to someone. You know, gift it if you think that someone that you know can use the beautiful energy of the crystal. It doesn't matter if it's broken, it's still a crystal. Don't get caught up in all the little details. But it
Right.
just means that, you know, it's worked with you, it served its purpose, so it's time to just let it go.
Wow. I haven't had a crystal break on me before. I think I would be very surprised if it did happen or when it does happen because I'm sure it will at some point. Um but I like what you said about how we can kind of ice ourselves out with all the crystals and it can sometimes overwhelm us energetically. I didn't think of it, but I should have thought of that because it seems kind of obvious, right?
Yeah,
And the key for working with up to three stones at a time, that was awesome as well. Because these are just little nuanced things that you don't really know. And you don't know the best practice, but you want to do it correctly. But what is really correctly, right? Because everything is
yeah,
intuitive. So,
that's right. And don't get caught up on the details of how you should work with them either. All you need to do really is sit with it in your hand and just 5 minute meditation with your crystal. What does your crystal need to tell you? Or what does it need to heal? Just let the crystal do its own work.
wow.
You know, you don't need to get caught up in it. It's a tool and it's going to help shift your energy. That's all that matters. Just leave the rest up to divine.
Awesome. Awesome. Another instance of surrendering. So,
Yeah,
thank you for that. That was awesome. So,
that's
where
okay.
can we find you online and what are your
So,
offerings?
yeah, I have a new Facebook group. It's called Sacred Soul Shift. So, it's basically a women's group where you can go and help yourself rediscover your passion for life. So, every week or every fortnight, I bring in a new guest and we talk about beautiful things. You know, there's so many different topics that help women shift their energy, grow, change their mindset. It's all about empowering, take it or leave it. And I do weekly group coaching in there as well. Just about to release my core program. So excited about that. It's going to be everything you need to find your alignment and more. So that will be releasing soon, and you will be able to find that on my website, which is sacredmunay.com, which is sacred MUNAY, which is a Quechuan word for compassion. So sacredmunay.com, and I'm on Sacred Munay on all of the socials as well.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. Wow. So, my last question to you, Spirit has been kind of tugging at me to ask you this. I haven't asked a guest this before, but where do you think we're headed with everything we have going on in the world right now? Where do you think we're headed?
It's so strange you asked me that, because just literally on the weekend, I had a session with a medium. One of my special guests was a medium, and we literally chatted for about an hour after I stopped the broadcast. And his insight, which kind of blew my mind, but at the same time, kind of validated what I feel, I guess, on the inside, was that, you know, with everything that's going on in the world, it's all going to shit, pretty much. And we all need to start shifting and raising our vibration and healing and coming together, because the way the world works at the moment is everything is divided, you know, and it's really sad. Women are competing against other women, and we shouldn't be. We should be raising and working together and helping lift the vibration, you know, one person at a time. And we're overlooking just basic needs and wants. Oh, it makes me so angry. But we're overlooking people's basic emotional needs for, everything that's portrayed to us in the media, and it's being overshadowed by this unnecessary fear mongering and materialism. We're looking outside of ourselves for everything when we should just be shifting and focusing on each one of us from the inside in our foundation, and raising the vibration and caring for the planet, because if we go like as we are going, I don't think there's a great future for future generations here on earth. And that's so important for us to start. It has begun. We've seen those younger generations step up and start wanting to care about the environment and shifting these political views and that sort of thing. But it needs to come not from our political leaders, it needs to come from everyone. And I think that comes from people, awakening to themselves and not just focusing on the self, but everyone, and connecting with everyone and helping everyone rise together, because I think that's the only way that anything's going to change,
Hmm. Wow.
which is sad, but I think that's the truth of it. And you see what's going on in the world, and it does make me sad, because what's going on in the world is controlled by a few people when you think about it, a little handful of people. And what about the rest of the people? There's so much that we can change and uplift if we all banded together.
Absolutely. What a great note to end the show on. Absolutely. Come together and fight this war of darkness that's happening right now. Absolutely. Well, Vanessa, I am so happy that you were able to join me today and we can discuss the details, the nitty gritty of crystal healing
You're
and all
welcome.
the great tips that you shared with us. I definitely enjoyed that as my work with crystals grows and I started investing in larger, better, bigger crystals that are speaking to my soul when I go into the crystal shop. So I appreciate you, and I am looking forward to doing my part on bringing
Yeah.
everyone together and spreading the light. And I hope that you will continue to do your part because we need you and we are so grateful to have you doing your part and living your mission and traveling and having the needs and desires of your heart and soul like just answered. That
And you are doing
really
the work with these episodes and sharing everyone's beautiful messages with the world. That's raising the vibration as well, which is beautiful.
absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Well, thank you so much.
Mhm.
It was so
Thank
great to
you.
have you on.
Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All
Thank you,
right.
everyone, for listening.